Now, South Africa's public service employment systems are vulnerable to various unethical trends. In fact, the Public Service Commission has released its latest State of the Public Service report. It identifies acts of undue influence, amendments of requirements and conflict of interest among panelists as some of the major issues. So we're asking, can the rot at the public service really be reversed, considering how deeply entrenched it is? In fact, we're joined by Commissioner Anele Gxoyiya, who is with the Public Service Commission this morning. Anele, it's great to have you with us on the program. Thanks so much for coming on. I want to perhaps just take a step back. For the sake of our viewers, give us a sense of really what the mandate of the Public Service Commission is.
Yeah, good morning, Michelle, and good morning to the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. The mandate of the Public Service Commission, as contained in Chapter 10 of the Constitution, Section 196, is to monitor the implementation of good practices in relation to labor relations in the public service, and also to ensure that government departments comply with the constitutional values and principles. So we are about the promotion of constitutional values and principles.
So ultimately, it's around organizational performance. Effectively, what it boils down to is the delivery of services, right? But what have you found in this latest edition of the Pulse of the Public Service Commission? This is for the period of April to June this year, in terms of how appointments are made and how that process might be flawed.
Yes, the study that we conducted in the month of July, which was informed, of course, by the fact that the month of July is the month where we celebrate the life and times of our former president, Nelson Mandela. And as we all know, the ethical leader that he was and the moral standing that he had in society. It is therefore our aim to ensure that the public service in the Republic of South Africa emulates the example of our former president. Then we conducted a study in relation to the appointments and promotions in the public service in the interest of building an ethical public service, which is, of course, capable and developmental. Then the findings of our study were that the processes of recruitment are always interfered with in some departments, and that compromises the quality of candidates that get appointed after those processes. We realized that at the start, an advert would be put appropriately. They would design the advert and put the necessary requirements. However, when it comes to shortlisting, then there is interference, either by senior managers or by executive authorities in some instances, where they would want to force some of the people who do not necessarily qualify to fill those posts. Then they insist that those people must be shortlisted. They insist that those people must be appointed. And because some of the people are fearful of reprisal, they are fearful of being victimized in the workplace, then they comply and they do the wrong things, and they include even people who do not qualify. And they go further to appoint them in some instances. So that's what we have realized. And we went further to make a realization that even if those areas have been picked up and there has been those findings, there is no consequence management to ensure that such instances do not recur. We also have realized that in most instances, there is no proper training for our HR personnel to be able to know and understand the prescripts that govern the appointments and promotions.
Right. I mean, obviously, this is closely linked to the levels of corruption? Because what would be the motive for wanting to put a particular person into a position in the public service, even if that person is not qualified for the job? As you say, there have been amendments of job requirements during the interview process.
Yeah, you see, saying it is linked to corruption might be an understatement, Michelle. It is corruption at its best. Because there is no reason for any senior manager or any executive authority to interfere with the process of recruitment and selection. The only time those people have to participate is when the posts are job evaluated and when the requirements for the posts are created up to the level of the advert. As soon as a panel has been established to do shortlisting and interviews, you don't interfere with those people. You allow them to do their work, and they come and account in terms of how they went about doing their work. But immediately you interfere, and you pressurize them to do wrong things, then that is nothing short of corruption.
Certainly. And I mean, these HR practitioners who you say don't prevent this kind of corrupt practice, they face fear of reprisal, harassment, victimization, workplace bullying. So surely what we need is a protection mechanism so that they feel safe to come forward and blow the whistle effectively.
In fact, Michelle, we are at the process of engaging that in some appointments, especially at senior management level, the Public Service Commission should be allowed to monitor those processes from the beginning to the end, so that we close any possibilities of wrongdoing. Because we want to be a public service commission that is proactive rather than reactive. Because it is always a mammoth task to respond or react to something that has already happened. So if a wrongdoing has already happened, it's a mammoth task to reverse an appointment, because it has to involve court processes along the way, because an appointment has already been made and reasonable expectations have been created for whoever has been appointed. So that's what we want to do in order to avoid that. But we also further recommend to government that HR practitioners need thorough training so that they understand exactly what their responsibilities are, and they are protected in terms of their job security when they do the right thing. Yeah,
absolutely. Public servants who conduct themselves ethically, as you say, should be held accountable, and those with information about this unethical behavior should feel safe enough to come forward. Let me thank you for your time. Anele Gxoyiya is with the Public Service Commission as we continue to track the story, the latest report finding unethical behavior in the public service, specifically insofar as appointments are concerned.